Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Hello, ladies. My name is Taylor Thompson. We're live here in the She Network. I'm so excited for you ladies to be here. This is Tuesday with Taylor, and I got a really special guest here coming on, so I can't wait to introduce you here. So as you're coming on, let us know you're here. Names, make sure you let StreamYard know where you're coming in from, like your name, give them permission to say your name. Otherwise, I just see Facebook user and I want to see your beautiful name and who you are and what city, state, country, wherever you're coming in from. So anyway, welcome, welcome. Tuesdays with Taylor. And I have a very special guest here, live interview with top earner, top 1%er here. And I have Miss Beautiful Brandy Bright. Brandy, how are you today?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being here. So I can't wait for the ladies to get to meet you and hear your story. So we got to meet like from a mutual friend. You were actually dating a distributor that introduced us, and we were involved with the company there. And wow, we just connected with, I mean, like such like-mindedness from many different perspectives. And it was just such a pleasure to get to meet you and get to know you. And as I get to know you more, we are so much alike. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Would you agree?
Yes.
With all this craziness going on, it's kind of crazy. So, so you guys are coming live there in Florida, right?
Yes. So we're from Ohio, but about a year and a half ago, we moved to Florida. We leveled up on our weather a little bit.
I would definitely say I'm jealous of that for sure, without question. I mean, I'm in Texas, but Florida, I mean, it's hard to beat Florida in any given day, right?
Yes.
So, so we're going to talk today. I want the ladies to hear you and hear about your story and how you got started and how you got to where you are now as the top 1% of your company. Like, and I know you had to kiss a few frogs to get here. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your journey.
Oh, goodness. So, our story is it's kind of unique and a little different, but, Mike, who you mentioned earlier, I actually met through the company where I met you. And, he has been in the industry for over 20 years, and I was new to the industry. So
Yeah.
we it's really cool for us to be able to offer for our teams and whatnot. And we get to offer the best of both worlds. So we have someone who's a pro, and then I'm that mom who joins network marketing with no clue what she's doing and dives in head first. And so,
but and I want to talk about Mike, because you guys have a huge blended family, and I want to get into that and how you do your business around all of those kids, which is like amazing. But Mike goes back to his parents. His parents were in network marketing. Mike, your husband, his parents go back to network marketing. And Larry, my husband, was their mentor back in the day, right?
Yes.
It's almost like you guys are the second generation of Larry and all of those fundamentals and basics that we go back to, right? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's so exciting. His family speaks so high of LT and of you. And I knew your guys' story before I even met you because of Mike's family. And, Mike's family is a true testament of network marketing and what this industry can do for you. I mean, his mom is in a nursing home right now, sitting on a, 6-figure income, and she hasn't worked her business in 15 years. She's retired. I mean, isn't that what the goal that we all strive for? How incredible is that?
That is incredible. And it's something, sometimes we don't think about the future such as that, and really what we're looking for is that passive income. What you do today doesn't show up till tomorrow, or what the future holds as you truly have, because sometimes whenever we start out, like one unit of pay or one unit of work is one unit of pay, right? And you think, am I ever going to get to leverage any of this? But at some point, to your point, you get to where, no units of work still equals units of pay, especially if you are creating a a long-term business that has consumable, repeatable kind of products where people stay on and continue using them regardless of what you do, right?
Yep, exactly.
I love that. I love that. So tell the ladies about you, because you have quite a big story here, and it hasn't been all easy. I mean, it never is, right?
Right. What story is, if you've got a story that's all easy, I'd love to hear it, because most of them are not. But so yes, Mike and I have a really big blended family. He had 4 kids when I met him. I had 2, and we actually had one together. She just turned 4 this month. And, it's just one of my favorite things is working with moms and teaching moms, that there is a better way. When I first found the industry, and I don't even know if you know this part of my story, but, I was in a really bad marriage, and we lived in Colorado at the time when I left him, and I had 2 toddlers, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and things escalated in our house kind of quickly, and I packed up my minivan. Yeah, I drove a minivan, packed up my minivan, and I had to get out of the house quickly and leave. And I was going to be driving cross country back to Ohio from Colorado with my children. And I packed up everything. I stayed at a friend's house that night. And the next morning I was going to get on the road, and I was actually selling products from a company. This was 11 years ago, and I had a bunch of these orders in my car, and I drove around with my minivan packed of all my possessions, crying, delivering these orders on my way out of Colorado to my local customers. So that was like my beginning into network marketing. That's just a little fun part of my story, but
wow, let's talk about that for just a minute, because I can relate. I certainly connect with that kind of atmosphere, being in a marriage. So you being a stay-at-home mom of 2 toddlers, you were in, a abusive marriage? And whenever you say bad, are you talking abusive marriage that you were escaping? Is that what was happening?
So yeah, it was not physical, very verbal, very verbally abusive, very controlling, and I left when I felt the verge of it going to a realm where it could become physical.
And so now that's a scary thing, if you're a stay-at-home mom. So were you in business? Did you have a home business, obviously, that you were selling some sort of product? Was it a direct sales kind of deal that you were just making some extra money to bring into the family?
Yeah, so it was a direct sales company. My mother-in-law actually had introduced me to it, and it was very minimal, very part-time. So yes, that's what I was doing, just a little bit of extra money. But it was one of those situations where I wasn't even allowed to have my own bank account for the money. It was a tough situation. And so I had started doing that just to give me something to do, bring in a little money, kind of find some purpose. And I ended up, doing it for a little bit after I left him and moved back home, but I didn't fully see the promise or the value in network marketing quite back then. Mm-hmm. So, had I latched on and really dug into a network marketing company, I think my story would have been very different, but I didn't. And so I ended up ultimately stopping that and getting a full-time job when I moved back home. And my full-time job was $10 an hour. I didn't have an education. I was managing hair salons, so I was making too much to really get a lot of assistance, but not enough to pay the bills. So I was working 40 hours a week, bartending at night. I was a freelance makeup artist in the little tiny bit of free time that I had. And this was my life, just the cycle for years.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about this, right? Because I think this is such a really great point that you make, that you really didn't know the big picture. Like, you had a taste of it, like bringing in extra money, but you really hadn't opened your mind or hadn't been in a position or an environment that allowed you to see the possibilities of what that could mean to you, for your children, as not just a stay-at-home mom, but now even a single mom, of what it could have afforded you. And so, here's what I'm going to talk about this for just a minute because I think this is such a great launching pad to have this conversation. Because, so many times in our business, as we're working and we're building a business, we're building a team, or we are just starting out, we forget to plant the seed into that person. And, because circumstances are always changing. And if we don't share the stories, if we don't put them in a community or put them in an environment that they can see other people just like them that are having success, that it's almost, I call it the incubator, right? Because, and they don't see that and they don't know what they don't know. So obviously you had some success, but maybe nobody took the time, or they prejudged you, or they said, oh, she'll never do anything with this, or, she's too busy. She told me no. And what if think about it. What if they would have put you in an environment, a Facebook group, a Facebook community, some sort of community where you were a part of it and you got to be a fly on the wall and see other women that were like you? Wonder what would have been different for you if that your mind would have been opened to the possibilities, a bigger picture, that it would have saved you that space. Anyway, just something to think about, ladies, because we always go through these things in our brain and we go, oh, that's not for them. They'll never do it. But when circumstances change, and that's what happened to you, I think it's such a great platform to spin off on. So here you are now in Ohio, 2 little ones, working night and day, probably never getting to see them.
Right.
Trying to make ends meet. You're stuck in the system. You're making more money so there's no assistance because you're making more, but not enough. Right. So it's a double-edged sword. So what happens next?
So yeah, I did receive minimal assistance. I received very little bits, but it was something. And I was just stuck in that cycle for years, just trying to find something to make something stick to, I started my own marketing company at one point, and but I was just in this perpetual cycle. And continual custody battles, just all the things, just life really happening. And so there was this defining moment in my life where I had to sit down and look at, all right, I have my own company. I don't have to answer to a boss, and this is great, but I'm just not where I need to be. So I was like, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to find a job. I'm going to find a good paying job. I'm going to get rid of my house. I'm going to move in with my mom. I was in my early 30s. I'm like, I'm going to move back in with my mom. I'm going to just do all the things and something has to give.
So I want to ask you this, because there may be because you mentioned something here and I want to touch on this. You mentioned some custody battles, and because I've been in a few myself, let's talk about that, because how did that affect you? I know how it affected me. How did that affect you? Because now you have the expense of, you have the pressure, you have the expense, you have, you're trying to hold things together, but then you have to do all of the legal footwork, and hire attorneys and the expense of all that. I mean, how did you navigate through that? I mean, there may be some woman out there listening today that may be walking in these shoes that needs to hear some encouragement.
Oh, man, that's looking back. I'm not sure how we survived all that, because I have an extremely high conflict ex. We're 11 years into being apart, and he's still just as high conflict as he was the day I left him. But, it was every time I would get my bank account to a good spot, he would file something and I would have to drain it to fight him. And, it was like I said, I just felt like I was in this hamster wheel. And there was actually a point in time where Mike would remember this when I met him, where the doorbell would ring and I would freeze. Yeah. And I would hide from my doorbell because I thought I was being served like papers or something. So, it's very emotional. I'm getting emotional talking about it. But, I just kept one foot in front of the other, just kept going. If I wish someone would have sat me down back then and the things that I focus on in my life now, the personal growth I focus on, my faith, writing my affirmations, all those things that I do now. I wish someone would have told me to do those then, because I think that my journey, not that it would have been easier, but I think I would have gone through it better, and maybe I could have handled some things better if I would have had those things in my life, but I didn't. So all you can do is just, focus on being the best version of yourself, giving your kids the best version of you that you can. One huge piece of advice that I can offer is that I never let my kids see what was going on. I used to cry in my closet. I never, even up until this year, we've had a defining year this year with custody stuff with my ex and with stuff with my kids. Even up till this year, I almost shielded my kids from their dad's behavior. And now that they're teenagers, this year I took that shield off and I let my kids kind of see. I didn't hide that anymore. So, but I'm proud of the fact that for so many years, I didn't involve them and I didn't play the manipulation game that they were getting on the other side. So that's my biggest piece of advice to you as a mom going through that. Just protect your kids, cry in the closet.
Well, and I will concur. I mean, as walking through that myself, I will say that's such great advice, because the truth always reveals itself, and you don't have to be the one. And I think that by taking the higher road with your children, especially, I think that ultimately children are very smart and they figure those things out, and you don't have to be the bad person, because ultimately, and I know we're talking about parenting stuff here, but ultimately, no matter what you're going through with the other parent, the reality is that your children are still half that other person. And whenever you down that other person, you're downing half of them. And so I think as moms that we need to realize that no matter what the ex or the other one has done to us or what they're trying to do to hurt us, we got to remember that our kids are still half them. And so that's such great advice. I appreciate you sharing that, Brandy. So let's talk about, so now that you're going through this and now you're getting a full-time job, you're getting yourself out of this pit. We'll call it a pit, right? So what's next?
So this is where the story gets kind of interesting. So I went on LinkedIn and I connected with this guy that I knew on LinkedIn who he was like the marketing director for a car dealership group, like a big car dealership group. And we connected and he gave me an interview, and I remember sitting at the interview and I wanted more money. And so I was like, well, you're not going to get it if you don't ask. So I asked him I was like, this is great. The salary's great, but I want a little bit more. And he's like, well, I can't offer you any more salary, but we're involved in this network marketing company and I will pay for your distributor kit and pay for you to buy some product to get in. And that's the company will do that. And so we can offer you that as your hiring bonus. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm not getting the money, so I'll just say yes to this. So I said yes, and that's ultimately how I met Mike.
Okay.
So when I accepted this job, I ended up in his downline.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So what a great bonus. Okay. So I'm going to go back to what Sue says. It says, so I've been there and my daughter intuitively learned the truth without me saying anything. So so we got some moms out there that are saying,
yes.
Wow, that's the truth. We got, Tracy is saying, take the high road. It's always the less traveled.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. So there's a lot of moms out there that are definitely agreeing with what you're saying. So here's the thing. I mean, I love your positioning here that it's always a no unless you ask, right? So ladies, it's always a no unless you ask. I love the fact that you asked the question and look how God directed your steps, right? So here you are. Now you get now you've met Mike. So was it a love at first sight deal?
What's really funny, and this is sitting in our office. I'll tell you what's sitting here in a minute. You guys will get a kick out of this. So, I think on his end, that's kind of the funny part of our story is that before I was hired, the guy that hired me was actually showing my resume to Mike. And I didn't know any of this was going on. And so I got hired, and Mike was like partners with them in several things. And so he worked out of the dealership, like he had an office out of the dealership. And so every day I was there, I saw him. And the first day I was really introduced to him, they introduced us in the office, and I was like, "Oh, hey, I'm Brandy." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, we're friends on Facebook. And I didn't mean to say this, but I was like, "Oh, we are?" I didn't even realize it. And I did that to him in front of the guys. He will never, till we're like 90 years old, he'll never let me live that down. And what's funny about that is, like, when I went home and told my mom, I met this guy, he's kind of cute. And I told her his name. She's like, "Brandy, I know his name. He's been liking your pictures for like a year." Shows you how much I was paying attention to social media then. Wow. But yeah, so what happened was he was not pursuing me in the beginning, and I kind of had this little crush on him. So instead of asking my boss for help with my network marketing business, I started asking Mike.
Okay.
And so I think he was actually on a trip with you guys. It was like in August or something of like, I don't know, when did we meet? 2016, 15, 16. I think he was on a trip actually with you guys, and I was like texting with him the whole trip and asking him questions. And so I kind of pursued things a little more with him. And what I was saying is funny that sitting right here, he had this book made of all of our text messages from like the first 6 months of when we were like getting to know each other and dating. So I have this, it's called the Hustler's Love Story. And he had this.
What a great idea. I would have
never. It is so cool.
That. So cute. I love that idea. Wow. Okay. So, well, I mean, whenever Larry and I met, there was no such thing as text messaging. So, I mean, that would have been cool. That would have been a cool thing to have.
Right.
So how did you guys get to the next phase? I mean, because let's talk about this, because here you have your kids, right? He has his kids. So you had 2, he had 4, right?
Yeah.
I mean, were you evaluating this in your brain? Like, did you know all this whenever you were pursuing him?
So at first, no. And I asked one of the guys at work about him, because, he didn't work there. He just worked out of their office. And so I asked one of the guys at work, like, "Who's this Mike guy?" And so his exact words were, "I don't know him well. I think he's a really nice guy, but I think he has a lot of kids, Brandy. Like, you sure? I think he has a lot of kids." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But then as I got to know him more, I'm like, found out that he had, 4 kids. And I was kind of already in, like, I liked him. So I was like, all right, that's okay. 4 kids. We'll figure this out. And
I mean, I just have to say, like, I love this part of it too, because I mean, not that Larry had kids, but I had 3 little ones. His were already grown. And so I love the fact whenever you meet somebody, and the fact that you didn't let that impede your relationship, because 4 kids is a lot. If you've already got 2, right now that's literally the Brady Bunch right there. Like, like, that's a lot of responsibility. So I mean, overcomes a lot, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was. If anyone on here is a blended family, you'll feel me on this. It is the most difficultly incredible thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
Like, we have had so many challenges, and we've been together 5 years. We've had so many challenges just between exes and, when you're blending families, and, we have kids of all different ages. I mean, our kids range from, Anya just turned 4, but up to 22. And so, his little boys were really little, and I feel like it's easier when the kids are little. And then mine were kind of in that 8, 9-year-old age, which is really tough. And then his other ones were kind of older. So we've had every stage of life through this. And, I'll have to say, probably the biggest struggle has been kids on my end. Like, my kids, mixing with him, and the whole "you're not my dad" thing. And so we've gone through a lot in 5 years. And I have to say, this is probably, we're coming out of things just like calming down with exes, all the kids starting to like mesh into this blended family. And
Well, yeah, and now let's talk. I mean, so you've got like the inside dynamics going on, and I know that like so now you were in this network marketing company, and to my point, like it didn't work out. I mean, so now you're together, and now that's not working. The business side's not working. The personal side's working, but the business side's not working. So I said you had to kiss a couple of frogs to get to where you are. So I mean, that must have been a big challenge to look at your business and it's not thriving, but the personal side is. How do you navigate that?
I mean, that's tough because when the big stresses in life are like divorce, death, financial stresses, all the things. And so we were going through a phase of financial stress. And financial stress, when you've got all these mouths to feed and all these, when you're as a woman, you typically don't pay child support, you receive it typically. But then, he's got 4 kids. He had more than me. So we're paying child support. We have all these commitments. And we were hurt by a situation in the company that we met in. And I was kind of burnt out after that and was like, I don't want to get into another company. I don't want to do this again. But then, Mike, that's all he's ever done. He's literally never had a job. He has been in the network marketing industry since he got out of boot camp, like in his early 20s. And so he was like, suck it up, buttercup. Like we're moving on to the next thing. And so we did. We went through several years of that I was in a company that he was not involved in. I kind of went off and did my own thing for a little bit, and we did some stuff together, and we just were just grasping, trying to find that home and navigate our family.
And I know that you did like you started your own blog, like in this transition, like you started your own blog, Healthy Hustlers, right? Mm-hmm. And so I love that because I loved how you were showing up real authentic, in the midst of all the chaos, but really giving a lot of value about health and healthy habits and choices and things that you're putting inside your body. I mean, such a great inspirational, educational blog that you were doing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my passion. I'm super passionate about health and a lot of the things about, our freedoms and our rights and our medical rights. And so that was something I could control. I couldn't kind of control what was going on with us trying to figure out our network marketing business, but I knew that I could control that. And so I did. I started a blog. I wrote a cookbook. I focused all my energy on just helping moms find that path of healthy living with their families. And so that was
and I think this is so relevant, especially for women. I mean, sometimes we get so caught up into the product or service that maybe we're marketing, and I love the fact that you put your blinders on and you found what you're passionate about and looked for a way to bring value to other moms, other families, and you started creating a tribe of women that there was no real monetary value, so to speak, but you were really creating a community that were like-minded, that, were passionate about health, had little ones, maybe blended families, all of those things that were, I call them dot connectors. I call them relatability points. And you started creating this group of women that loved you, right? And that you start and so I think there's so many women that I would probably love to do that, but almost feel like a little afraid to step out of their comfort zone because they don't think what they have is good enough, right? And so I wanted to take a few minutes and share this because, there may be some ladies on here that are in transition. Maybe you haven't found the company that you like. Maybe you're still looking. I mean, Gina's saying, she said, I understand trying to find a home in network marketing. There's a lot of loose ends out there, but there's something that's inside of you. Everybody, I believe God has put a gift and a talent inside of each one of us. hence She Network, sharing her excellence, that your gift and talent that you've been blessed with, you are the answer to someone else's problem right now. Whatever you're excited about, whatever you're passionate about, you have the solution that somebody else is looking for. And you just have to put yourself out there and know that they're looking for it. And sometimes it's all the stuff that we take for granted. We always go, nobody's going to want to know any of that, right? But if you're passionate about it, I promise you, somebody else is looking for your answer, right? And so I just love the fact that you did that. And so I wanted to, I think it's so awesome. And in the midst of all of that, here you have a brand new baby, right? Anya, which is the cherry on top. She's so cute and such a little sassy one.
Thank you.
Yes. And with this blended family and 7 kids, and now you guys have found your home, right? You found a home in network marketing. So let's talk about that, because you guys have just exploded.
We have. So yeah, I think that in between time when I was focusing on what I was passionate about helped set me up for being ready for finding our home. Because I think that you can sell anything you're passionate about. You can talk about anything you're passionate about. So, my passion is health and wellness. If your passion is dogs, if your passion is books, if your passion is nails, there's something out there for everyone, regardless of what you're passionate about. And they're, like you were saying, whether you think other people are or they're not, they are. So I think that really set me up for being able to build a brand around myself. I don't ever feel like I'm not selling something. I'm a brand, and I'm just talking about what I love. And so, yes, Mike actually tricked me into this company. I don't know if I ever told you that part of this. So I was so I told you, I was just done. We were just going through companies, and I was having fun. I was finding products I liked. I wasn't really making money, and I thought we were coming to Florida for vacation. And I was all gung-ho to come to Florida for vacation. Well, that is not why we came here. We were coming here to find our home, but I did not know that. And so when I learned that, I said no right away. When we sat in that first meeting and were talked to about this opportunity, I was like, not interested, don't want it, don't like your products, I don't want anything to do with it, nope. And I was just so closed off. I didn't even look at anything. Mm-hmm. I just instantly was like, nope. I prejudged everything, no. And so, if I have to be real honest, for about 6 months, I still was like, I wouldn't put my heart into it. Yeah. I was like, I'll support you. I'll handle the kids. You go travel. You go do the things you need to do. Let me know how I can help. I'll use the products. I'll do those things. But I had a wall up. And so,
and here's the thing. I think that, Brandy, I think as women, whenever we get disillusioned by a company or a set of circumstance, especially one that we put our heart and soul into, that we thought this was the love of our life, so to speak. I'll use that analogy. And, whenever they do something or something happens and that illusion goes away, and it takes a piece of our heart, right? And so whenever you lose your passion, whenever you lose your vision, whenever you lose that first love, it's really, really hard to get that desire back and that willingness to let the wall down, to let your guard down, because I think men can do it more easily. I think women are much more emotionally connected to the company, the products, how the products make them feel, and the relationships inside the business. Whenever that goes away, all of those dynamics, I think it impacts women harder than it does men. And I think it's harder for us to let ourselves trust the process again.
No, that's a great point. Yes, absolutely. 100% feel that.
Yeah. So 6 months. So what was the catalyst? What took place? When did you go, okay, I'm in? What happened?
So I started using the products. I liked the products. I liked the money that was coming in. I won't lie. We did very well very quickly. And so that was great, but I still wasn't paying attention. And what actually like sealed the deal for me, we went to our first convention and we were sitting at convention and we were, considered VIPs. And I remember leaning over to Mike and being like, what rank are we? Like, I just had not paid attention. And so listening to the stories on stage, listening to these women tell their stories of how this opportunity had changed their lives really resonated with me. Part of it, though, I was sitting there like, how old am I going to be this year? I'm going to be 39 this year. I'm going to stay 39 forever.
You're such a baby.
But listening to these girls on stage that were like 22 years old talking about, money that I was struggling to wrap my head around, in my 30s, listening to these girls that were like almost the same age as my stepson. I looked over at Mike and I was like, if these little girls can have this success here, whoa, imagine what I could do here.
Yeah.
And so that was a turning point for me. And then, I've really been on this journey in the past, I don't know, I'd probably say like 6, 7, 8 years with my faith. And, this company has values that align with that. And they talk about that kind of stuff throughout their conferences. And that really resonated with me. And so,
and I want to stop you right here because I think this is such a very, to me, it's really important, right? Because not just do you need to align with, the products and feel good about the products, but you really need to align with the company's value system.
Yes.
You really do. I mean, because I can tell you that I have conversations with leaders and different people. They have great checks, they have great products, but they're just not in line with their company on an integrity level. They question some of the things that happens that is allowed to happen, and so that can impact your business too and how you feel about your business. And I love the fact that you're sharing this because and I think it's great, especially, if you are of faith, if you're a believer, if you're Christian, like, I think just like this platform, I always tell ladies, like, it's okay. Like, there's no political correctness here. Like, if it's a part of your journey, I want you to share it. If God is in the story, that's okay to share it. So I think that that's a big piece of the pie that sometimes people tend to overlook is, do they believe in the company and the company's value system? That's a really, really, really important question.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, just a quick story on that of something that we experienced just end of last year, beginning of this year. One of those young girls that I was talking about, there's a young couple that lives here locally, and we do these monthly masterminds with a lot of the other, top income earners that are here locally. And at one of the masterminds, this couple's like 24, 25 years old. They're sitting on our couch and they're talking about how they pray out loud together every day. And Mike and I looked at each other and we're like, that's so awkward. How do you do that? And so, Mike and I had this, couple that's half our age, essentially, teaching us how to pray together as a couple. And so that is something that we wouldn't have learned had we not been aligned with the company we're aligned with right now. And that's changed our lives through this year. Just having that change our relationship and everything. So I think anytime to truly succeed in a company, you have to be passionate about the products. You have to feel alignment with that company. You have to, be around the people and feel like they're pushing you to a higher vibration. They're pushing you to be the best version of yourself.
I love that. And so, and you guys have moved very quickly. Like, you've been there, 2 years, and you're already at the top 1% of your company right now. Like, that's powerful. That's so powerful. So tell me, like, does, now that you're involved, how is it working together as a couple? Like, because there's some people out there, like, I get this question a lot, how do you and Larry work together, with different personalities and, shortcomings? How do you guys navigate that?
Oh man. I mean, well, let me preface this with saying not only do we work together as a couple, we're both Scorpios. So it's either we either are really good and things are going great, or we're like, it just there's no in between for us. But I think that's where communication is really important. Um, you have to communicate about everything with your spouse, but then you also have to respect each other's communication styles. So Mike is an over communicator. I am a little quieter. I'm a little more me quiet. I know that's hard to believe, but things like that. I'm more reserved. I was alone as a single mom for almost 7 years, so I am fiercely independent. I can get through my day without assistance from anyone. You know what I mean? Like I have that fierce independence, and guys need to be needed, and so that's always a balance. You know what I mean in a relationship, and so you know our big things is that we try to focus on um, praying together, staying strong in our faith, staying focused on the right things, focusing on communication. And then one of the big things that we've been trying to really prioritize this year, we haven't done it perfectly, but we're getting better, is finding that couple time. Because he's like, we don't ever spend time together. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're together all day, every day, 7 days a week. Well, we're both correct in the way we feel. We don't ever spend the quality time together, but we are also together 24/7.
Yeah.
So we've been really trying to, outside of the kids, we actually just went 2 weeks ago on a weekend trip with some of the other local top income earners. We all left our kids and we rented this incredible waterfront mansion for 2 nights and just had great conversation, time with friends, but also, couple time as well. So I think that's really important is knowing how each other views things and then just being really respectful of the differences you have and playing off that. Mike's really good at helping me when I need help, and I'm really good at saying, hey, can you take this over? And we balance really well.
I love that. And that's such great advice for anybody, that's married or in any kind of relationship. So like, how do you guys build your business? Do you guys do traditional, like online, offline? What's your daily method of operation entail?
So that's interesting too, with us being so different in our experience in the industry. So Mike's an old school networker.
Yep.
There wasn't Facebook and social media. I mean, I know you feel that. There wasn't those things,
yep,
20 years ago.
Yep.
And so he's more of a pick up the phone,
yep,
call somebody, direct line of communication. He's a huge fan of home parties, which obviously this year is not happening. But I'm the opposite. So in the other companies we were in, I was doing all the vendor events. I was burnt out lugging all this stuff around and doing vendor events. I wouldn't touch a vendor event now with a 10-foot pole. It's just not in my wheelhouse anymore. Not that because they're great. They're great income producing activities. That's just not what I can focus on right now. So he's really good at that side of things. I'm social media. I am 98% of my business is building on social media. I've created a story with our life. I've created a brand, and I just talk daily about, how I work the products into our life, about how this opportunity has changed our lives. But I also am the person that, I can be kind of annoying to go out to eat with because I'm trying to recruit all the waitresses. So I also do the in-person, but social media is my jam because we have a lot of kids. I can do it at home in my sweats with my toddler on my lap.
Well, you made the point that I wanted to make, and that's the fact that, first of all, you got to one of the top positions 6 months without you being involved in social media, the old school way, we'll say. So, I think networking is networking. Social media just allows you to do it faster, quicker, better, but it's still the same conversation. Some people just don't quite grasp that. But the reality is that, to your point, you've got to be able to know how to do it wherever you are. under whatever circumstances or what hand you've been dealt, so to speak. I mean, whenever you've got a 4-year-old, you've got to learn how to nip and tuck it here and there whenever you can, right?
Yes.
So, and talking about kids, let's talk about kids and like, how do you do your business? How do you manage your time around all of these kiddos and the responsibilities of being mom, entrepreneur, wife, date night? What does that look like for you as a mom?
Oh man. So that's also one of my things I'm focusing on this year is that it's so easy to get lost in all that. And I do feel like, I have gotten lost throughout the years in all that. I mean, I breastfed Anya until I just weaned her in November. She was a little over 3 and she still sleeps with us. We're like in the process of trying to figure that out. And so I literally have had a child attached to me all day, all night for almost 4 years. And so that does make it hard to, when Mike wants some of my attention, I'm like, don't touch me. Like someone's been touching me all day. Leave me alone. So yeah. I'm trying to find that balance of I've now started getting up just a little bit earlier. And before I even look at my phone, I'm writing my affirmations, I'm doing my devotional, I'm reading a book. And so I'm drinking my coffee, using my products, whatever I may be doing. So I'm trying to make sure I have that time in the morning, because if I don't do it right away, I'm putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And then the day's over and I didn't do it. Yeah. So I'm trying to prioritize those things. I'm trying to spend some time with friends, or I go get my nails done. I'm actually going tomorrow morning to get my lashes done for the first time ever. And I know, I'm so excited. I've never done it. But in my brain, I was like, all right, look at how much time I spend getting ready in the morning. And I have blonde eyelashes. So I can't just like get up and go somewhere. So I'm like, that's going to save me so much time. So I'm trying to focus just a few little tweaks on myself that give me a little bit more of like spending some time with myself. And then it frees up more with the family. And with Anya, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many days a week I'm sitting on the floor in her bedroom, like one hand playing with her, responding to messages on the phone. Or, as soon as we're done with this call, actually, I promised her that I would take some time off today and we would make some muffins. So it's just trying to like make that balance of work life and mom life. But the beauty of it all is that we get to do that. Like, before, when I was working when my kids were her age, they were in daycare and I was working a full-time job and I didn't have these options.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing that I love the fact that you're pointing at that. It's just the fact that you do have the choices and you do have the options and you do have, the opportunity to say yes or no to one thing or the other. And to the other point of it is, ladies, like, here's the thing, no matter if you're a top earner, whatever space of life that you're in, you never arrive, right? It's always, it's always a choice. There's always the option, and it's always a growth pattern. You never arrive. I'm in a different stage of life than what Brandy is, but I will tell you, I'm still faced with those same choices. And so at the end of the day, I really think that, because you kind of made this point, it's like the concept of putting, whenever, the airplane decompresses, the oxygen mask falls, put yours on first. And I think that's really ultimately what you're saying. If I take care of me, everything else starts falling into place. So that's such a great lesson here. So let's talk about, because we talked about mindset and stuff, and you're talking about reading books. So share with some of the ladies, what are the things that you do? Do you have like a scripture? Do you have like a particular quote? Do you have something hanging in your office? What is your go-to? Like, do you in an affirmation? What would that look like?
So I write my affirmations every single morning. It's a notebook, a big size notebook like this. This is not it, but it's a big size notebook like this. I do a page front and back, and it's business affirmations. It's things, I start it by saying, in him, I lack nothing. God's hand is on me. I was made for this. Some of them are, we are multimillionaires. Mike and I have a great relationship. Our kids are healthy. I put, I'm a magnet for customers. I attract my dream partners. I attract miracles. I live a life of abundance. So I write all of these things down every day of what I want to manifest in my life. What's instead of saying I want to be this, I'm putting I am this. I read a devotional every morning that I love. It's a Joyce Meyer, Confident Woman. I love her.
She's my favorite.
She's awesome. And I share it almost every morning on Facebook, and I get so many messages from people reaching out saying, "Oh my God, I needed that today. I needed that. That spoke to me." So, that's been really helpful. It helps me to read it, but then it also helps me to know if I put it out there that I'm helping someone else. So that's been really big. The scripture, and I'm going to screw up. I have to look it up, but I know it's Proverbs, but the one that's really been on my heart this year is speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. And I know you've seen me post that a lot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that speaks a lot about just me and what I believe in. And so that's been a scripture that I've really gone towards a lot this year.
Yes.
Picking a word of the year, that's something I've never done before. And a lot of the girls in our company, they just like almost like sit and like what's the word I'm thinking? Meditate. They meditate about like what word is coming to them that they feel strongly, and that's what they want to carry into the year. I've never done that before. And the word that just kept coming back to me was faith. Faith just kept coming back to me. And that really describes my journey this year. And Mike and I are actually getting tattoos for our birthdays, and I'm getting faith on my wrist. Like that word just has really sat with me. So that's been really big. And, I read a lot. And so I know that it's hard to find that time to read with kids. So I do a lot of Audible. I read 1 to 2 actual physical books a month, and then I go through 1 to 2 Audible books a month. And so whenever someone says to me, I don't have time to read, like, how are you reading? I'm like, all right, listen, if you're listening to music, you can listen to Audible. If you're doing your hair and your makeup, you can listen to a book. If you're driving in the car, turn off the radio and turn on a book. So I really try to make sure that what I'm surrounding myself with is providing value and just like keeping my mind in a really good place.
Love that. What is one of your, do you have like a go-to book that you just absolutely find yourself going back and rereading or using almost like as a resource? Do you have one? Obviously probably outside the Bible. Do you have one that like comes to mind or something that you go to?
So I have a couple, but I'd say there's 2 that I've read this year. They actually might be the same author. One is The Prayer of Jabez. And so I had never read that before this year. Yeah. And I read it twice, back to back. And then I got Beyond Jabez. And so that
enlarged my territory.
Oh, it's that. So want to talk about scripture? We pray that every day. That has been huge for me. So that book was life-changing. I did just read, actually, I give this as a gift to my team, The Dream Giver. And so this one, there's some of the ones from my team are sitting right here. This one is a great book for anyone at any level of their journey in network marketing, that it's not too much. It's not too harsh. Or, I have a couple books that are really good and they rile you up, but they're too much for someone who's new in their journey.
Yeah.
This one is not. It is amazing on belief, on dreaming, on the way you look at yourself. So I read this year, and it's now one of the gifts I give my team.
Yes, I love that. Yes, stretch out your tent. Yes, very nice, Gina. Yeah, the Prayer of Jabez, that was a staple for me, gosh, in the 90s. Right? Enlarge my territory, keep me free from pain. I love that you're bringing that up. Well, so I know that you're going to be like, I'm not going to give this away as like what you're going to be talking about, what you're going to be teaching in for the ladies in the membership class, but is there any kind of like final wisdom that you would like to pour into the ladies as before we sign off today? What would be the one thing that you would, words of wisdom that you would give to them today that they could walk away with?
So I think everything just goes back to mindset and belief. And I think that's if there's one thing that I could say that I've truly learned this year, it's to have a roadmap of where you want to go. Write it down. Don't just run around thinking you're doing all the things. Write down very clearly what you want and where you want to go. Write down your income goals. Put them on a dream board. Put them in a notebook. You need to spell out exactly what you want, and you can manifest making that happen. You have to believe it too. You can't just write it down but then believe, like, I could never make $50,000 a month. I could never be a millionaire. I could never do this. Because if you say you can't do it, you won't. You're right. You can't do it. But if you put down there, I am this, I am doing this, I am a multimillionaire, I am a top income earner in my company, I am a top recruiter in my company, and you believe that you can do those things, you can do those things. That has been my biggest like growth moment this year, is just focusing on my mind, always having my mind right.
I love that. I love that. Well, okay. We've had an incredible, the time has flown since we've been on here today. And I just want to thank you for taking out time away from your family and business to be here and share with the ladies inside the group. Love, 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 love having you. So ladies, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your interaction here with me and Brandy today. And so Brandy, you hang on. I'm going to say bye to you privately. But that's it for us, ladies. You guys have a blessed, amazing day. And we will see you tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.